What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the whole Silicon Valley Bank situation, how that could actually affect the markets in NIO, what's going on with the options chain for SPY, what's going on for tomorrow with CPI actually coming out on Tuesday, making tomorrow the last full day before CPI comes out on Tuesday. And I'm going to break down all of these factors and how they may affect NIO's share price for tomorrow and for later during the week. Now, before I break anything down about this, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just under 3 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to NIO got a very nice bounce off this 8.33 level support right over here, and right now it looks like NIO might try to get that rebound, but it really depends on many different factors. The market is very difficult to predict right now because we have so much news coming out right now. We have the whole Silicon Valley Bank drama situation that's playing out, and this is actually affecting how the whole market is moving. We have news affecting NIO, we have quadruple witching for Friday, and we also have the Fed having an emergency meeting tomorrow alongside CPI coming out on Tuesday. So we have so much coming out. The market's going to be very crazy this week, and I will break down some very important things to know. Now, right now, people are starting to panic, especially after all the news that came out with the banks collapsing. This is actually driving more and more fear in the market and increasing the odds of people beginning to sell more. However, we do have a bullish factor for the markets, and that's actually because of the fact that we have quadruple witching on Friday, meaning that we have some crazy high amounts of options expirations. The market makers are incentivized to try to push the markets up. Will they be able to do that? That depends on many factors. It first off depends on CPI, and it also depends on the news affecting the banks. If more banks keep collapsing and the news is very, very scary for investors, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of selling pressure. Lots of people are going to start panicking, right? So if that ends up playing out in that manner, it's going to actually slow down the market big time. And it's going to become very difficult for the market makers to pump this market. But if we don't get any major horrible pieces of news for the banks, and if CPI ends up coming in low or like as expected, there is a chance we could see the market makers try to pump us by the end of the week. Once again, it depends on many different factors, but we do have a possible short squeeze setup. I called this out yesterday. It's very possible, and we'll just have to wait and see on it. CPI is coming out on Tuesday. Make sure you're ready for it. It's going to be huge for the markets and also the Fed's policies. Now, when it comes to NIO, let me just talk about a couple of pieces of news that came out. In the back, NIO has this ET5 wagon that's coming out, and this is likely going to dominate the European markets. We're actually seeing this car with a very beautiful looking design. It has a very nice looking spoiler right above. It has a very important rear. And on top of that, it has a very small wiper, at least at the very, very back. Overall, it's a very beautiful car. It looks very sportsy, and this could actually dominate in Europe. It's getting some very, very popular traction right now. This is bullish news for NIO long term, especially for their dominance in Europe. But for the time being, right, although I'm very bullish for NIO long term, we have to look at other important factors, and that is what's happening with the overall credit markets and current financial system. NIO has been underperforming relative to the market with a very low price pairs ratio, telling me that NIO is just not doing as well. It's quite oversold. And Mondays tend to be green only about 49% of the time, so the odds are favoring a very flat day, maybe a bit of a slowdown. However, we had 46 million in volume, which is pretty decent. And right now, I do believe that the odds are favoring more panic in the markets, but that also depends on other different factors. With the whole Silicon Valley Bank situation, if you don't know what this was, this is basically the go-to bank for IPOs in the tech sector, especially in California. And then what ended up happening to the bank was the bank took all this money all these investments, they were doing very well. They managed to triple them. But then during times like this, they were invested heavily in bonds and also in mortgage-backed securities. As the Fed has continued to tighten on monetary policy, continuing to raise rates, we actually saw treasury yields for the short term starting to go up, which killed the valuation of this company's assets, which meant the bank, Silicon Valley Bank, started to sell, or they were forced to sell a lot of their bonds for losses. And then in losing all this money, not all of it was even insured. That's the crazy thing for lots of bigger investors. And then what happened was millions of people started to see big losses from these banks. The bank started to collapse, and we saw a big domino effect of more people starting to withdraw money, causing the bank to lose over like $42 billion in just one day. And the bank ended up just collapsing from this point. Very sad to hear. There were, very, very, very horrible things. They failed to actually protect uninsured deposits. And it's very difficult, right? Very, very difficult stuff. There's been a lot of talk about the Fed beginning to step in. They will be having an emergency meeting tomorrow, and we don't know for sure how this is going to play out. There's also a lot of people talking about, including like Bill Ackman, how the US government needs to step in and fix this. I don't know if the government is going to actually do that. We have to wait and see on that. So there's so many unknowns. And also you have to remember that Silicon Valley Bank was one of the top 20 largest banks in America, right? Massive, massive bank collapsing. And this tells me that they're probably not the only one in this mess. There are plenty of other banks out there in similar situations. So every single bank in the finance department is just getting hit right now, except for like JP Morgan, which managed to rebound just a little bit. But almost all of them are just getting annihilated, absolutely annihilated. And it's some very, very difficult stuff. I also want to note that as this does continue, we're likely going to see more and more fear in the markets. It's very capricious. That means it's very unpredictable how this is going to play out. If more banks collapse, the whole market could take more hits pretty quickly, as we're seeing more and more people capitulate. However, I do want to note that on SPY, we do have a hidden bullish divergence right over here. You could see we have this like low right here on SPY. We so far have a higher low, but the RSI is making a lower low. Once again, this is a bullish divergence. This is likely going to lead to a rebound, but it also depends on different factors, right? It depends on CPI. It depends on the news coming out affecting the banks, and it also depends on the Fed. What is the Fed going to do in response to everything like this? Uh, I also want to talk about something else super, super important. Uh, I want to break down the facts that overall in the market, people are very, very cautious right now. And uh, I want you all to know something. Right now, the market is not necessarily very, very happy. The market is in a position where people are anticipating some big crash. And this does incentivize market makers to maybe try to cause some kind of like mini short squeeze like situation. I just don't know if it's going to play out that way. I don't even know if they could even do this. It just depends on so many different factors. Now, CPI is coming out on Tuesday. You have to remember that. Tuesday is when CPI comes out. I don't know if CPI is going to be low or high. Joe Biden is saying it's going to be as expected or even lower. So there's a chance NIO could get a really nice bounce like this. There's a good chance that this could happen. But I also want to note that we have to be ready for what the market has in store for us. For tomorrow, I think the market's going to be getting ready for CPI, so I don't expect way too much to happen. I'm thinking the market's going to try to rebound just a little bit. We might try to see the market bounce just a little bit. We might see NIO try to get back to about this 8.71-ish area. Maybe try to get a little higher to almost $9, but other than that, it's likely going to remain trading sideways for a while, and I do see lots of chop. I think we could try to get a green day tomorrow, assuming nothing like huge happens that crashes the markets involving more banks collapsing. If another bank collapses, guys, NIO is going to tank. The whole market's going to tank, and NIO is going to come all the way down to the low eights. I'm not seeing that happening as of right now, so I'm under the impression that we might try to hold these levels pretty nicely. NIO is going to range trade between 8.3 and 8.7, and maybe try to get a bit of a rebound tomorrow just as we get closer to CPI, maybe close just slightly in the green, in the like 8.7 zone somewhat in the green, just a little bit. So that's what I'm seeing for Monday. Remember, Monday is going to be the last full day before CPI. If CPI is too hot, the Fed has to continue to tighten. If the Fed keeps on tightening, it's going to be very, very concerning for lots of banks because the banks are just getting hammered right now. And it's just going to get worse over time. So it's leading to this big mess. Let's wait and see what the Fed has to do. But like I said, for tomorrow, I'm anticipating once again lots of volatility in the beginning of the day, a slowdown in volatility and more chop as the day goes on, and maybe a slightly green day for the markets in NIO, just slightly in the green. That's what I'm essentially seeing, and that's what I do predict. The bigger day is going to be CPI, and then also the later days. So be ready for that, and that's essentially what I have for this video. So thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy your weekend, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, and peace out.